I finally finished installing our Aprilaire whole house dehumidifier. There are many different ways to install a dehumidifier in your house. This is the way that I did it. Right behind me, this is my ERV, my energy recovery ventilator. This thing is on its own circuit. It's a 15 amp circuit. It's got a GFCI ground fault circuit interrupter outlet. This thing only draws like 1.2 or 1.5 amps. It uses very little power. So I'm going to tie on the dehumidifier onto this outlet. The Aprilaire dehumidifier that we got, it's supposed to only draw about 5.1 amps. So I think the ERV and the dehumidifier being on the same circuit, that should be okay. If we have problems later like a tripping GFCI or the breaker, whatever, I will run its own circuit. I just got the outlet put in for the dehumidifier. It's right there on the wall. The wire that I ran to this outlet is just 14.2 Romex, and then I just ran the wire up across here, and then it ties in back here to this GFCI that the ERV is hooked to. So I've just got it hooked up over there. We got a surprise today. The dehumidifier came a day early. I ordered this from Amazon. They delivered it upside down. It does say this end up on the box. So I'm a little concerned about that. I decided to just build this little table thing. Nothing fancy, just put some 2x4s together. All right, got a OSB top on it. So this thing, I spent, I don't know, $20 on the lumber. Lumber prices are still ridiculous. One 2x4 is like $5 or $6. I did order this drain pan. This thing was $100 in case there's a malfunction or something and the condensate line gets clogged up. You know, if the condensate line overflows, I don't want it dripping down below. I built this stand about 3.5 feet tall. The reason I did that is because the dehumidifier is going to be draining, and I'm going to tie it right into this HVAC condensate line. We're going to make a few modifications to this dehumidifier. So right now the controls, it can be on top or it can be on the side. On the top would be good, I guess, if it was like in a crawl space and you're up here looking down. Well, this thing's going to be sitting up here. So I'm going to move this control right here. Moving this control panel from the top to the front, very easy. If you read your instructions, it tells you how to do it. So now I have to just put this cover back in here. I've got this plastic cover back in place. I did have to take this side door off. This is a little access panel, and that's how you get to the filter. So I had to take that off so I could stick my hand in here and hold this thing up while I screwed it down. I've got the Aprilaire dehumidifier sitting in the drain pan. This dehumidifier is sitting too low in this drain pan. This is where the condensate, all the water, the humidity from the house is going to drain out. It's too low. It has adjustable feet on it, but they won't go up high enough. So I'm going to put some 2x4s in this pan and sit the dehumidifier on it. As you can see, my HVAC units, that's what they did. I've got it sitting up on some 2x4s, and it should be just tall enough now. I'm sitting here reading the installation instructions, and right here it says, wait 24 hours before running the unit if it was not shipped or stored in the upright position. That gives me a little bit of hope. It's been a week that I've had this thing in my attic while I've been waiting on other parts and materials, and it's been sitting in the upright position the way it's supposed to sit. So hopefully this thing's going to be okay. Now we need to put the duct collars onto the dehumidifier. I've got the return side on there. Pretty easy, you just screw it on. They provide you the screws. Before we can put this duct collar on the supply side, we have to cut off the zip ties, and we got to take off this bracket here. I got some tin snips. We're just going to use that because they're already up here. Cut these off. As usual, it is one step forward, two steps back. The installation instructions are not completely clear on everything. I think I'm going to have to take the duct collar back off. We haven't done the supply yet. So this model is the E080. It is supposed to be more insulated than the smaller one, the E070. That's one reason I got this one. The E070 I think is also meant for crawl spaces. But even though this one's a little bit bigger, it's supposed to be more energy efficient and quieter because it has better insulation. Well, looking inside this thing, that insulation is styrofoam. So these duct collars here, they actually had styrofoam inside them, and I took it out thinking, well, that's just for shipping purposes. See this here, this is the one that goes in the return end. Now I'm thinking this is it's supposed to be in here. Like this is part of the insulation and what makes the air more quiet. So before I put this one on the supply side, I'm gonna pull that one back off and put this piece of styrofoam back in there. I hope when I turn this thing on, it's not all squeaking and blowing around. I'll give you a quick look. Okay, see all that white in there? That's just a couple pieces of styrofoam down in there. And inside the walls are lined with the styrofoam. So I'm thinking that the piece I took out of here is supposed to be in here. If we come around to this other side, maybe you see the same thing. White all up in the wall there. That's not metal, that's styrofoam. And the floor, it's got styrofoam. Even back up in there I can see more styrofoam all along the wall. We got both of our duct collars on there. Now we're going to work on this return line. We need to cut a big hole in the sheetrock over here. We need to put this big thing, this register box or register boot, whatever you want to call it. Right down there, that is my living room, and that is the return going over there to the main floor HVAC unit. So we're going to cut a hole in the ceiling right here for the return for the dehumidifier. We are down in the living room. That is the return for the HVAC unit we were just looking at up in the attic. So now we need to cut a big 12-inch square hole right here. We are ready to cut a big hole in the living room ceiling. We're going to make a big mess. I got my register box here. I took this thing and I took my pencil, traced the inside of it up here. I think you can make that out. There's a square on the ceiling right there. So now I'm going to take my sheetrock saw, and I got my wet dry vac set up. I'm going to hold that up to the ceiling as I'm cutting with the sheetrock saw. So hopefully it's going to suck up most of the dust and not make a big mess in here. That worked out very well. There is very little dust on the floor. Now because I had the sheetrock saw in one hand and the vacuum in the other, I had to use some painter's tape. I cut 3 sides of this and then I put the tape on there because as you cut the last side, I didn't have an extra hand and I did not want this thing falling or swinging down and then ripping the sheetrock paper. So we should be able to just, look at that. Now we're looking up into my attic. I've got my register box put into place now. This box is a 12 by 12 by 10. So it's 12 inches square, and it's got the round part that's 10 inches. The Aprilaire, it says to use 10-inch ductwork. All right, the next thing I've got to do, I cut some 2x4s here. So if you watch my ERV video, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to block this in, put some 2x4s around it. That way this thing is secure. And also when I screw the white vent cover, it'll have something solid, these 2x4s, to screw into. I've got my 2x4s screwed into place, so the register box is secure now. We are back down in the living room, and we're going to go ahead and put this cover on. We got the return air cover, air grill, whatever that thing is called. We got it on there, looks good. I've got it lined up pretty good with that other one. Really didn't intend on doing that, but it worked out good. I do have the louvers facing that way. I don't really know if it matters, but I'm thinking it's going to pull air from the rest of the house up this way. It probably doesn't matter. I just finished up with this stand. Now the dehumidifier is sitting where we want it. I had to put these 2x4s underneath the legs. This floor in my attic is just 1/4 inch OSB. I don't know if you can see, but it's very unstable, very squishy and bouncy. Now, if you look over here, you're looking at these trusses going across here, and they got a pretty good distance between them. So 1/4 inch OSB, it just bows down. So I got these 2x4s. They are screwed into 3 of these trusses, and now this thing is rock solid. It's not going anywhere. I put these cross braces on here. I've got this thing leveled up, and also the dehumidifier. I've adjusted the little feet on it, and there is a bubble on the top of this thing. And there's a little bubble right here. You just adjust the feet, and you put the little air bubble up there where it needs to be. So now this thing should be good to go. I've got some 10-inch flexible duct. I got this at Lowe's, 25 feet. I think this was $57. The way that I'm hooking up my ductwork, it may be right or wrong. I've seen people do it several ways. This is just the way that I'm doing it. So I'm taking the inner duct and I'm taping it onto the register box, and then I'm going to go over that with some duct sealant and my little cheap paintbrush here. That is looking pretty good. Now, I went around there twice with the duct sealant. Look at that beautiful ductwork. So we got the return installed. So there's the dehumidifier. This is the return. A lot of straps on it, hanging very neatly. Goes around to the back of this HVAC unit, hooks onto that box that we put into the ceiling. All right, well, it's taped on there. That's the living room ceiling. You probably know by now. This was not my original plan to run it this way, so I actually had to get another box of ductwork. I bought the 125-foot box that I showed you. Was hoping to do the entire project because I was going to come up through here and try to squeeze it in here. It just didn't look good. It was too crammed in there. So I wanted to run around here, and it just looks so much better. Just, there's no kinks in it. Of course, if they ever have to work on this HVAC unit, this thing is going to be right in the way, but we'll deal with that in the future. So this was R6, which I'm in a spray foam ceiling, a spray foamed attic, right? I really don't even think I need insulated. But anyway, it's R6. So it was the cheaper, less insulated kind. I looked and looked online and looked in stores. Anyway, I finally found this. This is a different brand. I found this at Home Depot. 10-inch ductwork, 25 foot. Now this is R8 insulation, so it's better insulated, which I really don't need. This was $100. I'm going to work on the supply side of this dehumidifier now. We're going to come out of the end here and loop around, and we're going to tie it into the HVAC return. So that's the main floor HVAC. That's the return there. So I got this big Y. That right there is 12-inch, and my new ductwork is 10. So this is a 12, 12, 10, a Y. We're going to be putting that into that ductwork there. And I got these really long zip ties. I've got the HVAC return, the ductwork cut in half, and now we're starting to splice in this Y. I'm putting the ductwork onto the Y. Got a bunch of tape on there, and then I'm putting these zip ties on there, and I'll pull the insulation back over it and tape it on there. I don't know if it really matters, but I've got the Y like this. You know, I'm kind of hoping that as the dehumidifier is blowing air, it blows back up into the HVAC unit and goes out into the house. You know, I don't want it to just blow backwards right into the house, because, you know, that's the return for the dehumidifier. So I don't want it just circling in the living room right there. I am done with the supply ductwork. The air is going to get pulled through the return into the dehumidifier, and it'll come through here, the supply, it'll loop around, come underneath here, and over here we got the Y in here, and it'll get pushed up into the main floor HVAC right there. Where the supply is attached to the duct collar over here, I got it taped on, then I put the zip ties on there, and then I pulled the insulation over and taped it on. This is the other side of the ductwork, the big loop. There's the main floor HVAC unit. So it doesn't look too bad over here. You know, it comes out of the dehumidifier and loops around and goes under there, ties into the return for the HVAC. Just like the supply that's down there and it's blocking the other HVAC unit, I don't like that this ductwork is blocking this unit here. I'm not completely happy with the way this supply ductwork looks, but I'm glad it's done. The return over here, it looks very smooth. It looks very professional. But this is that first ductwork I bought. It's the R6 insulation. It's got less insulation. The supply, it's the R8 insulation. So I don't think there's any restricted airflow. I don't think that the ductwork inside this is kinked up at all. But it just doesn't look good. I think the insulation is so thick. It's you know, just look at it. It just doesn't look that good. That's not a really tight bend up there. This loop it does. We just got the drain line installed. The adapter here, I just put some Teflon tape on it, screwed it in there. Got a little messy with the glue, but we glued everything together. 3/4 inch schedule 40. Of course, I changed my mind a couple of times how I was going to run it, so had to piece a few things together. Right, comes over here and down. So the main floor HVAC, I just got it tied into that condensate line. Yeah, I'm out of breath. I had to run downstairs to get another GoPro battery. The unit is turned off right now. All right, we got the plugged in, and right now my HVAC unit is turned off. Not that it really matters, I guess, but so let's yeah, so the only thing I haven't done yet is right here. I put this in this drain pan in case this drain line ever clogs up. Then I can have a little overflow shut off thing right here. Yeah, I just haven't done it yet, but I'm going to work on that. I'll just do that in a separate video. I'm ready to be done with this project. I've got a few other issues right now I'm dealing with. I need to hurry up and finish this. So we're going to turn it on. Okay, it says off. There's really not much room to work in here, so let me turn my light off and see. Okay, I turned it on and it's running. So I'm glad at least it's running. Right now you can't see, but it says air sampling. Okay, right now it's set to 60. That's too high. I'm gonna bump it down to 50. I think eventually I want it to be like 45 or 40. So right now we got the humidity set to 50. It is showing that it is 57%. So I'll come up here in a little while and check it out, make sure it's still working. But I mean, the unit is running, so hopefully it's working. That's going to wrap up this DIY install of my whole house dehumidifier. So far this thing's been working pretty good. It's been running for a week now. It's working, it's removing humidity. The temperatures have been a little bit lower this week, so naturally the humidity's been lower. Next week we're going to get into the 70s, and we'll really be able to tell if this thing is working. Okay, it is working. How good it works, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's working. So I'm going to be making some more videos about this thing. Like, I got to finish up the drain pan here. Also, I've got to get it dialed in or figured out. You know, I got to play with the controls. Right now I've got the humidity on this thing set at 42%, and the humidity in the house has been around like 50%. So it seems like I have to set this lower than what I want the house to be, but it's working. It is working, and I'm gonna say it feels better in the house the last few days. So I'm gonna make some more videos about it coming up, some more details about it. I'll keep you updated. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you soon.